Hello, good morning, and welcome, and thank you all for joining. I see a lot of people in the chat already, so let me pop this map up while people settle in. Welcome. Things are looking a little bit better around here. Got some nice colors in the background now, and working on last finishing touches around here. So hopefully, with any luck, today will go relatively smoothly, which probably jinxing myself by saying that, but you know, we do what we can here. So yeah, today the plan is the normal hang out with me for an hour and chat about live streaming and the ATEM Mini. It sounds like fun. I enjoy it. I hope you do too. And yeah, looks like a good spread of people across a whole bunch of time zones today. That is wonderful. Happy to answer questions. If you do have a question, make sure you mention my full name at Aaron Parecki in the chat, and that way I will make sure it'll make sure to pop up orange on my screen, and it's a lot easier for me to see it that way. And yeah, that's the plan. So guess what's new around here? I have a couple of little lights I put in the background for some color. My normal lamp is still hooked up to the super chat, so that'll still change colors, but the rest of them won't. And a little bit of color over here, a little light on the floor. Ignore the ladder in the corner. I'm still working on my ceiling lights. They're very close to being actually functional now, which is super exciting. So they are on, and they are in just full bright white mode right now. So there's a little bit of light from those in the scene. And I've got a camera to show you my desk as well. That is on a new dummy battery for the Sony, so I'm giving that a shot. Hopefully that'll work better than the USB power that I was having troubles with occasionally. It would just stop. It would just power off. I'm not really sure why. So cross your fingers that that works. So yeah, welcome. Let me pull up the chat. Where'd my chat window go? There we go. Yes, great. My Core 2 arrived yesterday. Do you have any new products in the pipeline? Awesome. That is fun. That's such a cool device. I'm actually not using it here because I don't really use it at this desk because I've got the Stream Deck here, but I have been using it over at the other table, and that one is, I'm not even going to show it to you. That's actually a disaster. I've got projects going on over there that are not video related. I'm trying to scan some photos and old documents. So that is a giant mess over there. I'm going to eventually get through that project. But as far as ATEM projects, or streaming projects, I actually do have a blog post that I just posted last night after spending almost the entire day working on it, which is about the remote control ATEM. So I've mentioned this a few times where I have my house and my studio connected over a VPN so I can control things on both sides as if they were all on the local network. And that's fantastic, but it's also like that's several steps deep in order to get that actually working. And I wanted to get something working for a tutorial that's a little bit easier for people, which is to just remote control an ATEM. The idea would be that if you could ship a kit out to somebody with an ATEM Mini Pro, a camera, probably a Blackmagic camera, and some device, networking device, then it would be able to sort of dial back into your studio network, and you could use the software control on your laptop to control it no matter where it is, using some sort of VPN solution. So I actually did get that working, and I wrote it up as a tutorial on my blog, and I think I put a link to that in the description, but I'll drop a link in the chat as well. And it is not a small amount of work to get it going, unfortunately. So the link is here. And my domain highlighted because it's my name. Nice. That is the link, and it is. Let me just like skim through this for a second because I'm disappointed at how complicated it ended up being. But the idea is you have a studio side with your ATEM, probably a streaming bridge. That makes it easier. and then your VPN server, and the remote kit has another ATEM Mini Pro, a camera, and then what I ended up using was a Raspberry Pi for reasons that I'm not super thrilled with, but does open up more possibilities. But if you look at the instructions, it's unfortunately quite a lot of work, but I put screenshots in here about every step of the way, and hopefully if this is something you want to do, you can actually follow this, but it's a piece of work. I'm not sure if I'm going to turn this into a video tutorial, but I would be curious if you are interested in seeing it as a video tutorial. Because if you are, that I could definitely do that. So let me know in the chat or in the comments later if you want to see a video version of that, or if the blog version is enough to sort of get things running. But again, the idea there is you would ship this kit to somebody remotely and then stream their video back into your studio, and also possibly record in the camera, and you would be able to control their remote side from your own studio. So the guest wouldn't have to know anything about ATEM or anything. You basically have them plug in power, plug in the camera, plug in the network, and it's good to go. And I just saw that my lights turned blue. Thank you, YouTube Dave, for the super chat. I appreciate it. All right, let me take a look at the questions that are coming in. All right. Where was I in the chat? Oh, you may notice that I put a pinned chat message because it is the most common question I get in the chat is how do I do the comments on the screen? And it's not that I don't like getting the question, it's just that I have actually done a video about that now. So you can see that video at that link. Let's see, does it show if no. Oh yeah, I can. I can even show the pinned chat on the screen. Interesting question. I bought a mini display port to HDMI cable to connect my iMac to ATEM, but when I mirror the display, the screen repeatedly echoes. What does repeatedly echo mean? I'm not sure I understand what that means with in regards to a screen. Yeah, we have to describe what echo means a little bit more. You mentioned a few times that you use a Raspberry Pi to help with Companion to drive the ATEM Mini. Can you please explain that a little? Sure. I like having, excuse me. I like having a sort of more or less permanent setup here. So, oh, here's a test of my Stream Deck button. Nope. What happened to the camera? One moment. Trying to get my wide camera over there. There we go. Okay. So this is my more or less stationary setup now at this table. This Stream Deck is plugged into a Raspberry Pi that lives back behind this plate. And what that does is it means that these buttons are always on. They're just always ready to go. So I have a bunch of macros for controlling the ATEM from this, but I also have buttons on another screen. I don't think I can get this close enough to show you the actual buttons, but I have buttons on this to control other things in the room. So for example, I don't know if you'll be able to see it in my shot, my hair light. Yeah, you can kind of see it turned off. That's controlling the light back there that lights up the top of my head. And I've also got one for the heater, which should start making a lot of noise there. So I can turn my heater on and off, as well as the lights around here. And because I have that set up, I don't want that to only work if my laptop is plugged in. So if I was, and I don't have a desktop here, so if I had to plug my Stream Deck into the laptop, then those buttons would only work when my laptop was plugged in. So this way I can walk in here from, I can arrive here, drop my bag, come over here, turn on or off the heater, turn on and off the lights before I even get my computer set up. So that's the reason that I have the Stream Deck connected to the Raspberry Pi so that it's just always on. If I had a desktop in here, that would work just as well. I just don't have a desktop computer. I ordered a Raspberry Pi 8 gig. Can I install the Streaming Bridge and Media Play software? Probably. Yeah. The Streaming Bridge emulator thing that I did doesn't actually take up very many resources because it's not doing any transcoding of the video. It's just basically taking whatever comes in the input and displaying it. So it's not a lot of processing going on. Whereas like if you were doing actual live stream encoding and encoding multiple bit rates and sizes and things like that, then that would be a different story. But for just the Streaming Bridge as well as some sort of other media playback software, it should work just fine on an 8 gig Raspberry Pi. Oh, what's the Core 2? I did a video about it, live stream, not a edited video. I did a very long live stream where I used it's too far away for me to grab, but it's a little, what is it? It's a little device with a touch screen on it. It's about this big, and it connects to Wi-Fi, and you can program it. So you can make it do whatever you want. And it's got a full color screen, touch screen, a few buttons on it, and I turned it into an ATEM controller. So you can change between 4 different cameras as well as run 4 different macros. You could do a lot more stuff with it than that too. So it's totally programmable using the Arduino environment, and it was pretty fun. So there's a recent live stream a couple weeks ago where it's like, I don't know, 5 hours long or something, where we were just coding it up and making it do some fun stuff. Oh, Larry, any thoughts about the RGB Link Mini? I do have some thoughts about it. They actually sent me two. They sent me the Mini and the Mini Plus, and I haven't actually opened them up yet. But if you look at the regular Mini, it looks a lot like the Feelworld one. Like the buttons are in the same position. So I'm assuming it's more or less the same as that. But I haven't. But they also have the Mini Plus, which does look a little bit different, and it has a few more features. So I am going to do a video about those once I get a chance to actually try them out. Do you have any experience using the BirdDog Flex Out with the ATEM Mini ISO? What is the BirdDog Flex Out? Because I used a BirdDog device. Oh, is this a new one? This is a NDI decoder, but I used a BirdDog NDI decoder that looked different than this. So the one I used was BirdDog NDI decoder. Now I don't know if I can find it. This one, Mini. Oh, that's the encoder, but it was a BirdDog Mini NDI decoder. I did not have any luck with it because what I was using as an NDI source was Skype, and Skype's audio bitrate doesn't match the ATEM's audio bitrate, and the decoder didn't do any transcoding of the audio. So this is new, so I haven't tried this one, and I would be curious to know if it has any more of those features that might make it work better in that particular case. It did work fine if the NDI source I was using had the same audio bit rate that the ATEM expected. So it worked fine other than that. But I was just trying to use it for Skype, and I gave up on it and I returned it. But that's cool, there's a new model out, so I'd definitely be curious to check that out. Last comment posted too soon. This one got cut off. Any idea how to stop screen repeating on DisplayPort out to ATEM? Still not sure what you're seeing there. Normally when I plug in an HDMI cable out from my computer into the ATEM, you're either going to mirror or extend the desktop. And it normally your computer sees it as an external monitor. So it just normally just works. Of course, if you have like a Zoom or QuickTime or something on your screen that is showing the program out of the ATEM Mini over USB, then you're going to get the tunnel vision effect, which is the same thing you get with like when you see this view where this is the program and you can see that it keeps going, right? Because this screen is showing you the camera, and then in the shot, it's again in the shot smaller, and then it just keeps going. So that same thing happens if you are showing that if you're doing your screen capture, but then showing the ATEM's program on your screen, you'll get a tunnel vision effect there too. But that's only if you're actually putting your ATEM program output on your computer screen. It's the only thing I can think of by echo. Oh, here's a good question. Any experience, good or bad, with StreamYard? Yeah. They did just get acquired, which I'm a little bit disappointed about. I hope it goes well for them, and I hope it goes well for the product. But they got acquired by Hopin, which I've used for a couple of, I haven't used myself. I haven't hosted, but I've joined several events and spoken at conferences using Hopin. And I have to say, not a big fan of the Hopin interface, so maybe StreamYard will be able to help them improve their product, because StreamYard has been great. StreamYard is really quite an amazing piece of software. It is a cloud-based video switcher, essentially, where you join with a webcam, which can, of course, be an ATEM Mini, and then you plus a bunch of guests can all just talk to each other. So you sort of see it as a video conference, like you're just in the video call with everybody, but then you can also live stream that out to any different platform. And it's very well done. I will say it's very limiting compared to what you can do with more complicated versions of that kind of thing, or with your own hardware or OBS, for example. But it is, because it's limiting, it's extremely easy to use. So you can actually you can actually train someone on how to run an event in StreamYard who has never done this before, and it'll only take like an hour or so, and they'll be able to actually do it. Whereas training someone to use OBS for the first time is like, yeah. So yeah, I enjoy it. I do live streams on that when I'm doing joint live streams for the work channel. So we use StreamYard for that all the time. All right. Did I use Good Cloud? No, I did not. I did not end up using Good Cloud. I'm not sure I want to tie a tutorial to that. So the tutorial I did ended up using WireGuard directly, and yeah, it worked out fine. It's actually WireGuard server on a physical device on this little thing, which again is my favorite little travel router. And I use this on the server side. So in your studio, you would put this as your VPN server, connect your laptop to that and the streaming bridge to that. And then the remote end has a Raspberry Pi, and it would VPN into this, basically. Cool. Oh, and now I've got to the part where I was asking about video tutorials. Chicken legs, there are no dumb questions. Okay. Do you lose all your media if you power it off? You don't. But you do have to click Save Startup State. I believe that's the only way to make it work. So if you are in the... Oops. If you're in the wrong screen. If you're in the ATEM software control, there's a little... Oh, my little face is blocking it. Let me scoot myself over. Position down. So if you go up to File, there's this Save Startup State, and that makes it save all of its settings, including everything in the media pool. The Mini will not save stuff in the media pool. The Pro and the ISO do. And that's because I guess there just wasn't enough hardware in the Mini to make that work. So that is a relatively recent firmware update, so make sure you're up to date on the latest version of the firmware, though. Perhaps a 6-part series on Netflix for the tutorial. Don't think Netflix would approve that. I'm just going to say. Okay, let me see. Oh, there was a... here's an interesting one. I'm still struggling with lower thirds using the ATEM Mini Pro. I've watched multiple YouTube videos and I'm still hitting a brick wall. Can you walk us through the baby steps of setting this up? Yeah, so I do have a video talking about a few different ways to do it. Essentially, there's nothing in the ATEM Mini itself that supports lower thirds. So what that means is that you have to use some other piece of software somewhere else to generate them. And there's a whole bunch of different options for that. And they all, at the end of the day, though, they're all the same, where they're going to output a video feed. That video feed is going to get fed into the ATEM, and then you're going to use one of the keyers to remove the black background to make only your graphics show up. So if you look at my computer screen, which is, let me turn off the chat. If you look at my computer screen, this is what I'm seeing. Actually, let me show you this is the Chromecast. So this is how I'm doing lower thirds for this stream, where this is one of the inputs into the ATEM. And down here, this background over here is black, which means it'll get keyed out, and I can also just crop from the top down. And if you look at the desk, you can see I've got that window here, right? But the multi-view, like this is not, my computer screen's showing up over here, so I can share like the ATEM software control. But then this one is where my graphics are coming in. So you can see that however you want to generate your lower thirds, you just need it to eventually show up on a black background down at the bottom, fed into your ATEM Mini over HDMI. So that means you can then use the downstream key to crop the top of that and key out the black background, making it overlay so that you can do that. So that's sort of the high level overview. As far as like software to actually do that, again, tons of options. You can use H2R graphics is a really good one. It's meant for exactly that, of doing lower thirds, titles, logo overlays. You can use Keynote. You can use actual expensive graphics generators programs. But yeah, lots of different options for actually generating the graphics, but at the end, they're all going to end up working the same way, which is they generate an image, which gets brought into the ATEM, and then you can key it out. So I hope that helps. What is the best way to play videos on a live stream using the ATEM Mini Pro? Will a Hyperdeck work? So this is actually a similar problem to the graphics question, where, again, there's nothing in the ATEM Mini Pro to deal with playing videos. So you need to somehow get some sort of video player fed into the ATEM as one of the inputs. And a Hyperdeck is certainly a good option. Hyperdeck, it's an expensive option. It's also fiddly because you have to make sure all of your videos are recorded in the exact right format for the Hyperdeck. But it's a solid device, and it can be scripted and controlled by the ATEM. So you can tell it to play by using the ATEM software control. You can include it in macros and things like that. But the other ways to do it would be using any video player, any HDMI player. You can get little cheap ones that take an SD card and play a video file. You can use a program on your computer and then again plug an HDMI cable from your computer into the ATEM and just full screen it. Lots of different options there. There's iPad apps to do it as well. You can even just play stuff straight out of the camera roll on an iPad. So yeah, lots of different options for that. Chris says, do you think Facebook will ever make their API available so you can do the same thing with their live chat as it is for YouTube? So interesting thing is the way that I'm doing chat here does not use the API. And it's because, again, if you look at my Chromecast screen, this is this is my browser tab I'm sharing into the ATEM. This actually is, oh, you can't see on that one. Here is my computer screen. So this actually is in a browser, and I'm actually on YouTube's website. So I've clicked the pop-out chat button, and now I'm like, if you look at the URL, you can visit that URL too, and you'll see the pop-out chat window. However, yours won't be styled like this until you install the extension. So the browser extension that I have is the one that's doing sort of like the reformatting of that to make it look like this, where your message is a lot bigger and stuff like that. So I could do that with Facebook because I don't need API access. However, I'm not going to do it with Facebook because I don't use Facebook. And I actually like effectively deleted my account. I wrote a blog post about that too. So there's I'm not on Facebook. I don't use it. I'm not going to get involved with that. Somebody else could do that by sort of adapting the extension that I wrote to reformat Facebook's pop-out window. I would probably actually rather make that work using Restream's chat, because then it'll support a bunch of different platforms all at the same time. So if you can stream to Restream and get Restream to pull in the chat, reformat Restream's window, then it'll support Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, whatever you pull in, all at once. And I see a question down here. What would be the settings to use in the ATEM control software to have the lower third over my picture? Okay, yeah. So basically, let me see if I can do this live. I should be able to. Let me turn off my chat, show my computer screen, and we can actually do this with the chat message. So again, I have already set up my graphics, which is this input 3. Again, you can see it here. It's input 3. So my graphics are ready to go. I'm going to crop that and then key that out. So here's my computer screen. I'm going to go to the downstream key. I'm going to choose fill and key are going to be that input. So that's my third input, is the Chromecast. And then this is the mask, right? So if I turn this on, and then let me mess my settings up so that it's not working. Like, you're probably going to start with like this, or no, -9. No, +9. Okay. You're going to start with this. So you need to, now you can't see my computer, of course, because I covered it up, but here, let me take off the right crop. There we go. Now you can see what I'm doing. So as I'm cropping the right side, I can also then crop the top down, right? So I'm going to eventually, you can just try some numbers. I think 0 is the middle. So you can go -1. Okay, I'm getting close. -2, -3, -4. Oh, that was too far. So -3.5. Now we found the right crop. I can now bring the right side back to 16, so it's full width. Don't need to crop the bottom. That wouldn't do what we want. And then you have to mess with the pre-multiplied, or with the key clip and gain. So you don't have pre-multiplied in this case. So you need to find the right clip level to make the blacks go away. And you can see if I raise it too much, then too much of it is going away. And now you can see, like, we can see through the L, we can see through the text background. So I need to find the spot where I get my gray background, but not so much of the black. And then same with the gain, is sort of the other way. Like, if it's too low, it gets transparent. So you want to find the spot where it starts to look right. And it'll depend on what you're sending as to what these values are. And then I end up taking all these values and recording a macro to set them. So for recording a macro, I'll go say, let's just create a new macro, show chat. And then I'll just go ahead and click through everything to record all those things, press enter on all these buttons, toggle this one, set those, make sure you check that box, and then toggle that on air, and now that macro is created. So you can do that for any, I was doing that for the chat, but it works for any graphics the same way, because this isn't like a special lower third, it's just an image that you're then keying stuff out of. And I see a question in here about why I use a Chromecast instead of HDMI input. And I'm actually still using the Chromecast, even though I found another device that isn't a Chromecast that I actually would probably recommend over a Chromecast at this point, just because it's the Chromecast has the weird HDCP issue you have to work around, so the other device does not. The other device plugs directly into the ATEM and it works great. But in any case, the reason I use those is because if you look at my, how am I going to show you this? I think I'm going to show you my table. So this is how I'm looking and controlling the chat, right? So when I click one of these messages, I'm reading the chat up here and I'm controlling what I see there. But if I was using my computer screen into the ATEM for this, I would not be able to hide this without messing up the chat overlay. So for example, I can bring this over top of that window, but you're still seeing the chat overlay down there, right? And you can actually see over here, I am sharing my computer screen into the stream so that I can show you what I'm doing on my screen. But I'm also sharing specifically just the one tab. And that's the trick there. That's what makes it work. Because I don't want to have to make sure that I don't touch my screen in order for the graphics overlay to work. So I want to be able to use my computer and also share the chat over the stream. Now, if you had a separate computer, you could do it with a separate computer as well, where your other computer would be the one doing the graphics generation, and you do only use it for that, and that would be fine too. I just only want to use one computer here, and that's why I have the ability to share a specific tab into the ATEM lets me do that. So hopefully that helps. Okay, let me scroll back up because I saw some other messages. I was way up there. Okay, is there anything about... Great. It echoes as if pointing the camera at the screen. Image repeats to infinity and beyond. So that must be that if you... I don't think I... Can I demonstrate that? Is my ATEM USB plugged into my computer? Let's find out. That's my webcam. Is Blackmagic? It is. Okay, great. So here, I can demonstrate this. I'm assuming this is what you're talking about. So if I show you, let me show you my desk first. It's doing it still. Yeah, of course. So I've got QuickTime up here showing the USB input from my ATEM, which means I'm now seeing whatever the ATEM is seeing on the stream. So I've got that infinite tunnel effect. If I switch this to my computer screen, it's going to get real weird, real fast. So, oh, this is cool. Is this what you're talking about? That is what I'm curious about. Is this... Okay, that's getting a little bit too much. Whew. Is that what you're talking about? And thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. And Steve says yes. Okay, so yes, that is what's going on. Then it's because you are looking at the program out of the ATEM on your computer, and if your computer is feeding into the ATEM, then yes, you get an infinite loop. And that is, that's just how it works. And it works with pointing cameras at screens as well as sharing computers into the ATEM as well. The solution is don't switch to your computer as the program input if your ATEM output is on the screen, because you're not going to see anything. And that's also why, for example, I can't feed the HDMI out of this ATEM into one of the inputs to show you the multi-view of this ATEM, because you'll get the same tunnel effect and it's too distracting. But same idea. Hopefully that answers it. Okay, I see a bunch of questions about, okay, people are talking about my stand. This stand is I did this before I had a 3D printer. I got this before I had a 3D printer. It was printed for me by a friend. It was designed by some very nice folks, and they put their files up on Thingiverse, so you can download that file. I requested this specifically because it's a little bit taller than the original one they had, because I can put another ATEM down here and feed the cables under it. If you don't care about that, then you can... Oh, I don't have it here. If you don't care about that particular feature, then you can actually buy those now at DVE store if you don't have a 3D printer or don't have access to one. So that one, I think I put a link down below to it, but let me find it anyway. Because, so yeah, if you don't care about the, here it is. If you don't care about the being able to stack them, then this one from DVE store is the, you can just buy it now. It is still 3D printed, but you don't need to worry about like finding someone with access to a 3D printer then. I then painted it white like I've been painting everything else white. So I just spray painted it with the same paint I've been using everywhere else. At this point, I would probably reprint it in white myself. So I have, now that I have a 3D printer, I've been printing random things. This one, for example, is not my design, but it's a cool little SD card holder. And this is what my white filament looks like. It's not quite the same white. Like if you, I don't know if you'll be able to see on the stream, but it's, you probably can't tell under this lighting. It's ever so slightly more yellow compared to the spray paint. So I might still end up spray painting stuff that I'm printing in white just to make it the exact same white. Oh, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Okay. My skin tone seems a bit off today. I don't think my camera's changed, but the lighting in here has changed because I do have more lights on now, so it looks fine to me on my screen. But yeah, I guess it might also be that you're seeing more of a contrast because I've got this blue back here. So that could be throwing it off today too. Nice lighting today, Best. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. I'm trying to dial everything in, and it's taken a bit of work, but mounting those lights on the ceiling back there really helped because now I just have this one always ready to go, and that's without that, and that is with that, and that was Tommy's suggestion. Tommy Calloway suggested that a couple of weeks ago, and I finally was like, okay, I think I'm happy with this position in this room. Time to actually go mount something to the ceiling to make that happen. Okay, scrolling back up to find my position in the chat since I got kind of distracted there. Is there really no way to get the ATEM ISO to record all cameras individually on SSD while on Zoom? ISO has only one USB-C port. Yep, that is the limit of the ATEM Mini, and I really hope they add a second USB port in whatever future version or product they're going to make of this, because that is definitely a big limitation. If you are using the USB output for running into your computer, then you can't use it to record on a drive, which is really too bad, especially with the ISO, because there's really no way around it if you're using the ISO to record all of the inputs. So hopefully we see two USB ports on whatever is coming next. This is I've seen this video. Two YouTubers built a desk with a computer built inside the desk. Do you think you will take on something like that? Very, very cool videos. Very cool project. I am very impressed, and that is definitely the way that I would like to have a desktop computer, just because it wouldn't take up any other space other than the desk itself. I love it. It's a lot of work. I don't know if I'm willing to do that myself. So we'll see. You could do a Raspberry Pi OS card image of your setup and do a video on how to adapt it. That's an interesting idea. I will say there's two reasons I don't like this. One, because I would have to continue to update it every time there's a new Raspberry Pi OS version. The right thing to do would be to redo the image with the latest version of Raspberry Pi OS. Second reason is I don't really like encouraging people to download random OS images from sketchy people like me. It's not the best security practice to do that. It's a lot safer to say, go find the official Raspberry Pi images from Raspberry Pi OS and install that, and then install a small amount of software on top. So yeah, it would make the tutorial go a lot faster. But I'm not sure I want to go down that road. But good thought. JB says, when using the ATEM Mini Pro as a webcam for Zoom, I've noticed that the video seems darker. Have you noticed this? Any solutions? Yeah, it's actually more contrasty. So it definitely takes the range, the color range, and then sort of like stretches it. So you lose the dark end and the bright end end up being more extreme. It is a bummer that that's the case. And I don't think there's really any way to work around it other than making it so that it doesn't matter in your shot. So if you don't need, make it so that you don't need fine details down at the dark end of the picture, and then it's fine. Like when I'm doing Zoom calls with this camera angle, it looks fine because like my face is properly exposed, so that stays about the same. It's not like the whole picture is getting darker, but if you look in the background, especially if I don't have all these lights on, you often can't see the details in the background. But for Zoom calls, that's actually fine. That's how I want it anyway. So it ends up not really mattering. I use Mix 16 as a media player. It can be controlled with OSC in Companion and works fine. Put it in downstream key and turn it off after the clip. It's nice for short transitions and clips. That is a very cool idea. Yeah, I forgot that you can actually control that over OSC, which means you can automate it not from the ATEM macros, but you can at least automate it from Stream Deck macros. And that is a good idea. I really want to actually get some more animated graphics for doing these streams. I want to have like after the countdown runs and my intro, I want like a 3-second, like some sort of animation that comes in, or for the ending, for example, like a nice little animation. Maybe if we start doing segments in this and do little transitions between segments, it'd be a lot of fun. So iMix 16, the iPad app, or use my Hyperdeck for it as well. And it just means that I have to make a lot of those animations. I've been enjoying making animations in Keynote though, because it's like super simple to use compared to After Effects and all that stuff. So of course, limiting, but you can do quite a lot in Keynote. How do I match different cameras' frame rate when I don't have a decimator? Well, if you're using the ATEM Mini line, then you don't have to, and the ATEM will do it for you. It'll handle most every camera frame rate at 720 or 1080, and it'll just work fine, which is actually how my setup here works, because my computer screen definitely does not match every camera that I'm using and all the other things brought in. So the ATEM handles a lot of it for you. If you don't have an ATEM Mini, then if you have the larger ATEMs, they don't have that built in. So you do need to then do that frame rate matching outside of it, which the decimator is the best thing for that job at that point. And I don't know, if you have to do that, I would say just get the decimator. It's not cheap, but it is good. It works and it does its job. Did I notice the cord 2 using a lot of bandwidth on your wireless connection? I didn't look, but the ATEM protocol is pretty chatty if I remember correctly, because it's always sending like pings to make sure that the device is there at the other end. So it might just be that. What is the longest you go with an HDMI cable? Okay, here's the thing about HDMI cables. HDMI overall is like a mess. It's a giant mess. And there isn't just an answer to this. I guess like the longest I would ever expect to work reliably in the best cases is like 25 feet, but I definitely wouldn't expect that in all cases. So it depends on the cable. Like the fatter the cable, the more shielding it has, that'll be better. But it also depends on the thing sending data and the thing receiving the signal. So your different cameras will have different amount of power that they can pump out over the HDMI port. So smaller cameras like my little ZV-1 aren't going to work as well as like the Blackmagic camera, which has a full-size HDMI port and is meant for doing that. So you'll get a longer distance out of the bigger cameras. But it also depends on what you're plugging it into, how sensitive it is to receiving it. So it completely varies. I would say like 10 to 15 feet almost always works on everything. 15 some of the thinner cables and some of the smaller cameras start breaking down. Between 15 and 25, it starts getting pretty flaky, and I wouldn't rely on that. Oh, and the other part to that is if you are connecting, if you're chaining them together. So if you have like a converter to go from micro USB to, or micro HDMI to HDMI, that converter is going to cause some signal loss just in those pins as well. So that'll reduce your overall length. And if you're trying to chain cables together with like the little adapters, that's going to cause signal loss down the chain as well. So it's best thing you can do is one continuous cable from your source to your destination at the shortest distance that is possible for you to use. And that is why I ended up integrating SDI into this workflow here so that I can do longer runs without worrying about it. So I have a cable now that goes from this table. It's actually a big fat collection of cables that goes from this table to the other table. They're all wrapped up in a little cord protector, and there's 8 25-foot SDI cables in that. So I can now move that around, and it looks like one cord running across the ground, but it's actually 8 cables connected. And I would never be able to do it with HDMI, because in order to get 8 strong enough HDMI cables, they're going to have to be pretty fat, and they're going to take up a lot more space. Whereas the SDI cables, I can use the really slim ones, because 25 feet is nothing for SDI. All right. Oh, this must be the bird dog we were talking about. Yeah, NDI to HDMI decoder. Cool. There are 3 versions, one encodes, one decodes, and the other is a bit of a mystery. Yeah, I didn't actually know that they had released a bunch of new products, so that's cool. I hope they are working better than that last one that I tried. Okay. Again, if you do have a question for me, make sure you mention my name at Aaron Parecki. Otherwise, I'm going to assume people are talking to each other in the chat. Why is it impossible to split the USB out so you can record as well as send a full HD feed? It's because the USB port has essentially 2 modes, and it can't do both modes at the same time. So it's not like, so it's when you're, I think the terminology is host. So a USB device can be a host, which means it's hosting another device. So when you're recording to an SSD, your ATEM is the host, and then the drive is the guest, where it's plugged into the ATEM, and then it's being powered by the ATEM, and it's, that's the ATEM is the one controlling the USB, what's going over the USB connection, telling the drive what to do. When you're using it with your computer, it's the other way around. The ATEM is the guest, and your computer is the host, and your computer is telling the ATEM what to do, which is give me a video feed, and it brings it in. So it can't, like a device in USB world can't do both of those things at the same time. It can't host something and also be a guest. So that's why you can't plug in a drive and through any sort of hub, because the hub is just a way to have multiple guests on a host, not change something into being both at the same time. And Russell, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Cool. Okay. Where was I in the chat? I think I found it. Have you encountered audio drift, not the audio video sync, on longer streams when using the mic input on the ATEM and USB output for the video? I don't think I've personally experienced this, but I have heard of people having this problem, and I think it's because it has more to do with the computer that it's plugged into, because the audio and the video are coming in like 2 different channels through the USB. So it has to do with the computer. So it could be the speed of the CPU, the quality of the USB cable, all of these kinds of factors. But like I use a very short, like 1.5 foot USB-C cable to connect directly from the ATEM to my computer. Although actually now I've got a slightly different setup, which is because I've changed everything to be white cables running into this. I have a white, like 8-inch USB-C going into this little patch panel connector, which then runs to this, which is now a hub plugged in through one cable into my computer. So there's only one, my computer only has one thing plugged into it, which is how I like it. That connects to this, which is feeding the video into here, connecting to the stream, not Stream Deck, connecting to the ATEM. And I'm a little bit worried about that because normally I encourage people to do a direct connection. And I've done a couple of things in Zoom since running with the sort of chained thing, and it's worked okay. I haven't done a 4-hour thing in Zoom yet with that. And I suspect I'm going to have a problem because I now have too many things in that USB chain, and I probably will have to go back to just a short cable. But that's the only time that I've seen that audio drift happen. So shorter cables, less things in between the ATEM and the computer. Faster computer always helps as well. I read that if the internet went off, the ATEM will cache the stream until internet is restored, and then we'll try to rebroadcast the cache. Have you tried that? Any confirmation? Yes. It is kind of amazing how it works. I kind of want to just show you live. It's risky, but let me, yeah, we're going to try this live. I'm going to show you how this works. And Steve, thank you very much for the super chat. Okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to switch over to, where was that chat? Oh, I lost it. Okay. There it is. What we're going to do, I'm going to switch over to this view. I'm going to do this live. Let me get the chat out of the way so you can see the ATEM. What I want you to look at is the on-air message on the stream. So I will also say, if you're watching this recorded, you're going to see something different than live. So the people who are watching live are going to see the YouTube player spin out and say, there's a problem with the stream. It'll take about 3 seconds to kick in because I'm in the ultra low latency. So you're going to see, it'll take a couple seconds and then it'll say, oh, there's no video. And then what'll happen is you will see, it'll just sort of continue from as if nothing had happened. It's not going to skip to current. The YouTube player is going to say, if you look at the YouTube player, I don't think I have it open, but there's a little indicator telling you whether you're looking at it live or scrolled back. And it'll be red when it's live and gray when it's scrolled back. So you'll see it switches to gray. And if you want to skip to live, you can click it and it'll skip you back to live. So what I'm going to do is, oh, here's what I can do so you can see the time pass. I'm going to put my Hyperdeck counter on that. So we're going to go here to the, where's my Hyperdeck? Here. So watch this number. That's what's going to tell you whether or not we've dropped any data in the stream. So I'm going to unplug my network connection from the ATEM. This is going to start blinking. It's still going to be buffering. And then while you're watching this countdown, when I plug it back in, you won't see a skip in the numbers. It's going to just keep on going. And the recorded version will also look completely seamless as well. And in the recorded version, it's going to be really funny because you're going to be seeing that I'm off air, even though I'm still streaming. So here we go, live test. I'm going to unplug the network and kill my stream. And here we go. 3, 2, 1. I have an internet connection. It's going to figure out that there's no network soon. There we go. Now it's blinking on air. Now all the live people are like, oh, where'd he go? My cache is going to start filling up, but keep an eye on this counter because you're not going to drop any frames. I'm going to wait for my cache to show like 10% or whatever. And come on. Okay, the cache is really big apparently, and I'm only streaming at 5 megabits. So everyone live is freaking out, like, oh, where'd the stream go? Okay, I'm going to plug it back in. I'm not going to wait for the cache to fill up. Here we go. Plugging it back in. It's going to figure out that it has an internet connection. And come on, go, go, go. Go, go, go. They're all waiting. There we go. Oh, 40%. Okay, now jump up to 40, flush the cache, back online. This is the thing to look at. So when you're looking at the replay, did you see this number skip, or did it actually just count down the whole time? Okay. That was a live test of what happens when your ATEM loses an internet connection. How did that go? So did you see a gap? And you also might now be not looking at it live. So check your YouTube player. And you are probably watching now like 30 seconds back from live because it was trying to make it seamless for you. And the ATEM was able to send the past data back up. Froze on 632 and it looked like it resumed on 628. Not bad. Yeah, pull the play bar over to the right. So you might be looking at it from slightly in the past. So if you scroll to the right, it will catch back up to live. And then you can go back later and look at what I was saying while I was offline. Okay, that was fun. Nice little live test of my losing the internet. So yeah, I don't know how big the cache is, but depending on what you're streaming at, if you're streaming at a higher bit rate, you'll have less time before that cache fills up. So the lower the bit rate, the longer you have for that to be buffering. Oh yeah, and if you're looking at the live playback and the quality dropped, it might be that YouTube dropped you down to not 1080 as a viewer, just because it thought that something was wrong with the bandwidth and is trying to drop down. Pulling your connection was a great test, but not recommended as a best practice. Yeah, no, don't do that live like I did. Don't try this at home. Okay. What else can I answer in here? Wow, we're already at the top of the hour almost. What update are you running on your ATEM? I always update to the current one. That's usually the best idea. They usually fix a bunch of stuff in there. So I usually recommend updating to the current. There was that one time where they broke a couple of hard drive compatibility in an update, and then like the next day released a new version fixing it. So that's the downside of immediately updating. I would usually say if you have a show starting soon that you've already tested, don't upgrade before the show, upgrade after. Did I stream myself putting up the LED lights? No, it was awkward because it spans the entire room. So I had to keep moving things around in here and like moving the ladder and juggling furniture. It was a mess. It was not fun. How can I connect the light and change the color for Super Chat? It's all done through if this then that. So if you just go to ifttt.com, there's like search for Super Chat in there, and I have Hue bulbs, Philips Hue. So I think it can work with anything though. It was like click, click, and then it's just running. It's great. So I'm still using the Chromecast on here just because I like the pretty pictures when it's in screensaver mode, but the Miracast is simpler because you don't need a splitter for it. So usually at this point I would recommend getting one of those Miracast devices since it's just simpler. Ooh, is it possible to stream to Zoom through Restream so you can still use ISO recording? As far as I can tell, I've looked a couple times. As far as I can tell, Zoom does not have the option of ingesting an RTMP stream. So that does not work, unfortunately. I'm looking for a couple of easy ones I can answer before we wrap this up. this is a good point. Fiber HDMI, you can go a lot farther with fiber HDMI cables. I still haven't actually used those myself. But yeah, if you do want to stick with HDMI, fiber cables will make it so you can run a lot farther than traditional HDMI cables. You absolutely can combine an ATEM Mini and a Pro for more inputs, and you basically add 3 because one of your inputs is eaten up by the output of the other ATEM, but totally good option. And I actually was, most of my streams earlier last year, I was using 2 ATEMs with them because I had more inputs that I wanted to show. And now my solution is much, much more complicated for doing that, where I can use this thing to reassign any of my ATEM inputs. So like right now it's showing this wide angle, but I can also say like, oh, actually I don't want my computer screen there. I want that to be the let's get the Hyperdeck in there. So that's here. And now input 2 is my Hyperdeck. So that's much more complicated. I don't recommend this for everybody, but it has solved quite a lot of things on my end for this space. I have the ISO. Would you recommend Raspberry Pi, or would you prefer Streaming Bridge to get multi-view, record ISOs, and get program out? Which one has less latency? The Streaming Bridge is just so simple that I would probably recommend that. And it's definitely more expensive than the Raspberry Pi version, but it's just so much less work and less stuff. It works great. So I don't know. I would probably do that because, and I think it actually does have less latency than the Raspberry Pi version that I put together. You might be able to do some more tuning with the version I put together in the Raspberry Pi to make it lower latency, but the Streaming Bridge is so good. It just works. You don't think about it. Have you ever used adapted Ethernet cables for HDMI extensions? I have, a long time ago. I want to say like it's been probably about 3 or 4 years since I've done that, and I had okay success with them. I was probably using pretty cheap converters for that. So I don't know how much of my experience is due to just the particular ones I bought or the whole thing in general, but they mostly worked. And every now and then I would get a signal drop in them, which was really frustrating. And I couldn't figure out how to track down the problem. I ended up not really using them much after that because I started getting into SDI for doing that kind of stuff where I could do longer runs with SDI cables. And because I was using the television studio, which has 4 SDI inputs already. So I only had to convert SDI on one end, on the camera end, sending to the ATEM television studio. So yeah, I don't know. I think fiber HDMI is a great solution to that. It's a lot simpler than the Ethernet adapters, but the Ethernet cables can do some cool stuff too. And also, it's been a few years since I've used those devices, so they could be a lot better now. Would I ever need to change the IP address in the ATEM Mini? Well, so it totally depends on your network. And this is like getting into the whole networking side of things, which thankfully they've done a lot of work to make it so that you don't have to worry about it for the most part, because it'll like auto-discover things, and the ATEM Mini Pro and ISO will get their own IP address on your network from your DHCP server, and you don't have to worry about it. The Mini, you probably won't be controlling the Mini over the network anyway, because it's probably being used as a webcam, and their software control can control it over USB. So the reason you would have to change the IP address is if you are trying to use it in a non-DHCP scenario where you don't have a DHCP server, or if you are trying to hardcode the IP address and you can't change your DHCP server. Probably it'll just work without any fiddling. Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate the super chat. Okay. Oh, my chat has been running too long, and now the green markers are off. So I'm trying to find out where I was. There we go. Oh, my Chromecast just broke. That looks like HTCP. Interesting. I apparently can't show the chat anymore. Thank you, Randy, for the super chat. Yeah, my Chromecast is just a bunch of static. I think somehow the HTCP kicked in. So I guess we don't have chat for the rest of the stream unless I go reboot the Chromecast. But we're at the end anyway. So, all right. Don't twist those fiber HDMI cables. Yeah. Okay. Stream is stopped. Oh, that's where we were testing pulling the internet connection. Have you shown us the hub before? I talked about it in a couple streams a couple weeks ago as I was setting it up, but I haven't done like a proper run through of it yet. Oh, Michael asks, I got lost in audio settings. Is there a tutorial on how to use the equalizer? Curtis Judd has a very good tutorial on that. That is definitely who I recommend looking at. Search for Curtis Judd ATEM Mini, and he has a tutorial that walks through all of the settings on the ATEM Mini audio side. All right. Actually, the stream paused when your Chromecast died. I'm suspicious that those two things were correlated. Okay. Oh, Lesson Tier says Chromecast got really hot and died after 6 months of use. I wonder if that's what happened to mine just now. I wonder. Okay. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you for all the questions. I have a couple of pretty cool... Oh, yeah, before we go, I have a couple of fun events coming up. So make sure you are subscribed to this channel, but also my newsletter. That is on... that is at news.aaronpk.tv. And I'm going to be a guest or multi-guest on Photo Joseph's show. I think it's next week. So we'll be doing a test with the streaming bridges, 3 streaming bridges running into a really big ATEM. That is going to be a lot of fun. So that is, yeah, that should be a lot of fun. So make sure you are subscribed to the newsletter there. And I don't know, I actually haven't coordinated with Joseph yet about whether we're going to broadcast that to all of our channels or just on his. So, yep. And if you do, yeah, I should also leave you with another link, which is aaronpk.tv/products, which will let you search through my affiliate links. And that way you can find links to things I've dropped links to in the chat and anything else I've linked to in other videos. I am planning on doing some pretty cool upgrades to that soon, which will let me link out to videos with timestamps of when I've mentioned those products. So that is coming soon. Keep an eye on that. And with that, I think we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you all for watching. And thanks for all the great questions. And thank you for all the super chats. And I will see you all in the next